Okay, this is the second video looking at the air combat system in Bar-Lev. Now, this is really resolving the actual attacks rather than the first video, which just looked at plotting the missions and getting everything on the board. Now, first thing you have to do is you look at the aircraft involved, so that this one here, on this particular attack here. Okay, we've got an Israeli interceptor fighting a MiG. So you see the top thing, that is your air-to-air combat. Okay, so you then go and look on the air-to-air combat table, and you look at your air strength, which is that combat factor I just discussed, and then you roll a die. Okay, now everything is simultaneous unless you're dealing with an F4, which we are. An F4 here, because it has Sparrowhawk missiles, it's got a first fire, so it's allowed one roll of first fire combat. So we'll throw that and it gets a 6. Okay, and we look up a 6 on the chart, it's nothing. Okay, there's also a +1 on that, so that would have been a 7. So the next thing is we fire at normal, so both the Syrian and the Egyptian fighter throw on the air combat table. The Egyptian has a 0 and a 0 with a attack strength of 2 is a D, a destroyed unit, and the Israelis throw a 9. Okay, now let's just say it was the other way around and it was the Egyptian unit that was destroyed. You then got the interceptors. There's no sort of escorts there anymore, so they can go in and attack, rolling the die, and they get a -1. So that would have been a 3, so they get a neutralise, and neutralise basically means the unit is aborted, and it's placed in the aborted box. So you notice that the difference, things that get aborted, when you have to roll a dice to recover things and get them back into operation for the next turn, they'd have to throw this +1 to the recovery roll. Okay, you see the serviceability numbers, that's the number you need to roll to get the plane available again for the next turn. Okay, so let's just ignore all that for the moment, and we'll assume that they didn't manage to do anything to that MiG, so they missed. So the next thing you do, you look at your anti-aircraft batteries in range, and then you roll on the anti-aircraft SAM table. So you look up here and you're looking at the type of battery, the height, whether it's low, medium or high. Remember, if there's a low marker, it's low. If there's a high marker, it's high. There's no marker, it's medium. So this one's medium. And there are some modifiers for range here, but this Hawk battery is firing from the hex that's being attacked. So you would then check your Hawk battery, which is there. We've got a medium attack. So we'd roll that, you get a 2 on the table, which is a neutralisation, which would abort the attack. Okay. Now let's say it wasn't aborted, and say that it got through. You then go on the ground attack. So you look at this bottom number on the right, that's your ground attack value. So you then go to your air to ground table, look at your strike strength. So we're rolling for a strike strength of 1 and we get a 6. So that's nothing. Now there's a +1 if it's brigade, because brigades are difficult targets to attack. +1 if it's a tank as well, because they're armoured obviously, and +1 if you're attacking a bridge. Bridges are fairly small targets relatively. Okay, you've also got -1 if you're going in low altitude, +1 if you're going in high altitude. If you're attacking airfields, it's slightly different in the fact that all the airfields have a notional flak capability. Don't know where I could actually see where that is, but yeah, well, we'll just say if you attack an Israeli air base, for example, they all have a notional Hawk and a notional TCM-20 battery on actually on the airfield. So there are no counters for those, but they're able to fire at the incoming airfield attack. Other things to remember: if interceptors are fighting bombers, they also get a -1 modifier for that, because the bomber's not very agile and very easy ducks. When you're firing flak, a flat battery, multiple flat batteries can fire at the same aircraft, but they can only fire once, and when you're fired, you flip them onto SAM fired, like this. Now, at the end of all the air activity, the ground attacks and everything, you remove all these SAM fired things because they're no longer relevant. They're only relevant for that particular segment. Trying to think, is there anything else? Your units that have flown, things that have successfully completed their mission without being aborted go into the flown box, and their serviceability rolls are unaffected, so they're easier to get back into the game. And that surprisingly is it. It's quite a neat and fairly easy to play system. All of the air stuff is, to be honest.